You begin by noticing how naturally death is treated as an ending. Something stops, something disappears, something is lost. Yet before accepting this assumption, you pause and ask what exactly is believed to end. Ibn Arabi enters this reflection immediately, not as a teacher of doctrine, but as a guide to inner clarity. He asks you to examine what you call life and what you call self. The Quran offers a precise starting point. I breathed into him of my spirit. 1529. If life and awareness are breathed rather than produced, then individuality is not their source. You did not generate consciousness. You found yourself aware. The question quietly sharpens. If life was never self-created, can death truly take it away? Or does death undo only a mistaken sense of ownership? Ibn Arabi lived in Andalusia among jurists, philosophers, and mystics who debated law, reason, and belief with intensity. Knowledge expanded rapidly, yet certainty remained unstable. Ibn Arabi observed that learning often strengthened identity instead of dissolving it. His concern was not how much one knew, but what knowing did to the knower. The Quran captures this structure clearly. Above every possessor of knowledge is one more knowing. 1276. Knowledge, by its nature, does not conclude. It points beyond itself. Ibn Arabi followed this implication to its limit, asking whether true understanding might require the death of the knower rather than the accumulation of ideas. You speak of life as something you possess. My life, my consciousness, my existence. Yet none of these wait for permission to appear, and none remain under control. Ibn Arabi identifies this language of ownership as the root illusion that makes death frightening. The Quran states the principle without ambiguity. Everything is perishing except his face. 2888. If everything that appears is in a state of passing, then ownership cannot be real. You cannot possess what does not endure. What you call my life is already changing, already dissolving, moment by moment. When this is seen clearly, death no longer threatens life itself. It threatens only the claim that life belonged to someone in the first place. Ibn Arabi reframes death entirely. He does not treat it as annihilation, but as recognition. The Quran expresses this recognition as return. Indeed, we belong to God, and to Him we return. 2:156. Return does not imply loss, it implies prior belonging. Death, in this view, removes nothing essential. It dissolves misidentification. What ends is not awareness, but the belief that awareness was separate. When death is understood as return, fear loses its foundation. The question shifts from what is destroyed to what is revealed. If return is inevitable, death does not end life. It clarifies what life always was. You may imagine death as a boundary that separates you from the real. Ibn Arabi dissolves this assumption by questioning distance itself. The Quran states, "We are nearer to him than his jugular vein." 50:16. Nearness here is not conditional. It does not fluctuate with states of life or death. If nearness is constant, then death cannot interrupt it. What boundary could death possibly cross if proximity never changes? The sense of separation is sustained only by identity, not by reality. When identity loosens, nearness remains unchanged. Awareness does not approach the real in life, nor does it depart from it in death. Nearness survives both because it preceded both. What truly dies, Ibn Arabi explains, is not awareness, but the observer who claims it. The Quran returns to the same principle. Everything is perishing except his face. 2888. The observer is part of what perishes. The idea of a central I that watches, owns, and controls experience dissolves. This is the inner death Ibn Arabi emphasizes. Awareness does not vanish when the observer dissolves. It becomes clearer. Experience continues without a personal center interpreting it. When the observer dies, nothing essential is lost. What remains is awareness without ownership, perception without a perceiver standing apart from it. Ibn Arabi distinguishes between knowledge that reinforces identity and knowing that dissolves it. The Quran again marks the hierarchy. Above every possessor of knowledge is one more knowing, 1276. Knowledge reaches a point where it can no longer support certainty. At that point, it must die. This death of knowledge does not lead to ignorance. It leads to clarity. Knowing remains, but without authority or possession. When knowledge can no longer confirm who you are, identity loosens. What remains known is not an object, but the fact of awareness itself. Knowing reveals itself when the knower is undone. You may believe that signs appear as new information. Ibn Arabi suggests the opposite. Signs become clear when obstruction fades. The Quran states, "We will show them our signs on the horizons and within themselves." 41:53. These signs were never absent. The self that insisted on interpretation prevented recognition. When the self loosens its grip, signs require no effort to see. Recognition becomes immediate. Nothing new is added. Something false is removed. The question is no longer whether signs appear, but who was failing to see them. When the self fades, clarity stands without commentary. Inner death does not end life. It releases it. Ibn Arabi describes true life as existence without claim. The Quran returns again to return. Indeed, we belong to God, and to Him we return. 2:156. When belonging is acknowledged, fear dissolves. If nothing is owned, nothing can be lost. Life continues, but without the burden of possession. Actions occur without anxiety. Experience unfolds without defense. What remains is living without fear of death, because death has already undone the illusion that made fear possible. Life becomes simple because it is no longer protected by identity. Ibn Arabi collapses beginning and ending into a single reality. The Quran states this unity without sequence. He is the first and the last, the manifest and the hidden. 57:3. Life and death appear as conceptual markers imposed on what is continuous. If the first and the last are one, then life did not truly begin, and death does not truly end it. What appears as sequence belongs to perception, not to reality. When this is seen, life and death lose their opposition. They are understood as descriptions, not truths. Here, understanding settles without conclusion. There is no claim to maintain and no fear to resolve. Ibn Arabi's unity does not merge opposites. It dissolves false distinctions. The Quran seals this recognition. He is the first and the last, the manifest and the hidden. 57:3. Awareness remains without ownership, without transition, without loss. Nothing begins. Nothing ends. Death no longer threatens, and life no longer needs defense. In this stillness, there is no one left to say they are alive, and no one left to say they are dead. There is only presence, complete and sufficient, without need of explanation.